The morning sun filtered through the tall windows of the vice president's ceremonial office in the Eisenhower Executive Office Building. Dick Cheney sat behind his desk, reading the president's daily brief, a routine he'd followed for 8 months now. The leather chair creaked slightly as he leaned back, his reading glasses catching the light. Outside, Washington was beginning its day. Staffers hurried through hallways, coffee in hand. Tourists lined up at the White House gates. September had brought relief from the humid summer, and the Capitol felt almost peaceful in the early hours. Cheney's chief of staff, Scooter Libby, knocked and entered. "Mr. Vice President, the president's in Florida for the education event. You're scheduled for a policy meeting at 9. Cheney nodded, making a note on the brief. At 60, he had the methodical habits of someone who'd survived 4 heart attacks and 5 administrations. Every minute was accounted for, every decision weighed. He'd been Ford's chief of staff at 34, the youngest in history. Now, as vice president, he operated from the shadows, the way he preferred. "Fine," he said simply. "Anything else?" "Just the usual schedule," Libby replied. "Quiet day." Cheney returned to his reading. Quiet days were rare in Washington. He'd learned not to trust them. "Mr. Vice President," the aide burst into the office without knocking, a breach of protocol that immediately told Cheney something was very wrong. "A plane has hit the World Trade Center." Cheney stood, his expression shifting from routine focus to sharp attention. "What kind of plane?" "Commercial airliner. Sir, initial reports say American Airlines. It hit the North Tower." Within minutes, Cheney was in front of a television, watching the smoke pour from the tower. His mind, trained by decades in the national security apparatus, was already working through scenarios. Accident? Pilot error? The weather was clear. Commercial jets didn't just fly into buildings in clear weather. Then, at 9:03, as he watched the live feed, the second plane hit. "Jesus Christ," someone behind him whispered. Cheney's face remained impassive, but his hand instinctively moved to his chest. Not an accident, an attack on American soil. He thought of Pearl Harbor, of his mentor Donald Rumsfeld, of every briefing he'd sat through about terrorism. This was the nightmare scenario they'd discussed in abstract terms. Now it was real, happening in real time on television. "Get me the Secret Service," he said, his voice steady. "Now." The Secret Service agents didn't ask. They moved Cheney by force, their hands gripping his arms as they propelled him down corridors he'd walked casually an hour before. Now those same hallways felt different, urgent, dangerous. "We're taking you to the PEOC," the lead agent said, using the acronym for the Presidential Emergency Operations Center. "I need my staff," Cheney protested. "They're coming, sir. We need to move. Now." Downstairs, through security checkpoints that swung open as they approached, deeper into the earth beneath the White House. The bunker was something out of Dr. Strangelove, built during the Cold War, designed to survive nuclear war, now activated for a threat no one had fully anticipated. The steel door closed behind them with a heavy thunk that seemed to seal them off from the world above. Inside, military personnel were already at their stations. Phones rang constantly. On the walls, multiple television screens showed the burning towers from different angles. CNN, Fox News, the networks all showing the same horrifying images. Cheney took his seat at the head of the conference table. His heart was racing. He could feel it, old and damaged as it was. But his voice remained calm as he began issuing orders. "Get me NORAD, get me the Pentagon, get me the president." This was what he'd trained for. Not in the way soldiers train for combat, but in the way Washington operators train for crisis, through experience, through previous emergencies, through understanding how power flowed and decisions got made when everything was falling apart. "Sir, we have confirmation. A plane has hit the Pentagon." Cheney looked up from the phone he'd been holding, waiting for Air Force One to patch through the Pentagon. America's military headquarters, the symbol of American power. If the World Trade Center represented economic might, the Pentagon was military strength. Both hit in under an hour. "Casualties?" he asked. "Unknown, sir. The building is on fire. Part of the structure has collapsed." On the screen, new footage showed smoke rising from the Pentagon's western side. Cheney had worked there as Secretary of Defense under Bush's father. He knew those corridors, those offices. He knew the people who worked there. Military officers, civilian analysts, secretaries, cafeteria workers, thousands of people. Condoleezza Rice appeared on one of the secure video feeds from another location. Dick, we're getting reports of other planes that may be hijacked. The FAA is losing track. How many planes are still in the air? Cheney interrupted. Thousands. It's morning. Peak traffic. Cheney's mind raced through the implications. If 4 planes had been hijacked, why not more? How did you find needles in a haystack when the haystack was the entire American air traffic system? Ground them, he said. Ground every plane in American airspace. Dick, that's never been done. Ground them all. Now. I don't care if it's been done before. Do it. It was an unprecedented order, shutting down American airspace entirely. But unprecedented was the theme of the day. The old rules, the old procedures, the old way of thinking, all of it was burning along with the towers. At 9:59 a.m., the South Tower collapsed. Cheney watched it happen on the television screen. A building that had stood for 3 decades, a symbol of American economic power, simply ceased to exist in seconds. The footage showed it pancaking down in a cloud of dust and debris that rolled through the canyons of lower Manhattan like a living thing. No one in the bunker spoke. The only sounds were the quiet voices of military personnel on phones, the hum of equipment, the endless ringing that had become the soundtrack of the day. Cheney removed his glasses and rubbed his eyes. How many people had been in that tower? Thousands? He tried to do the math but gave up. The numbers were too large, too abstract. Each number was a person. Someone who'd kissed their spouse goodbye that morning, someone who'd stopped for coffee, someone who'd called home to say they were okay after the first plane hit. Now they were gone. 29 minutes later, at 10:28, the North Tower followed. My God, someone whispered. Cheney put his glasses back on and returned his attention to the briefings in front of him. There would be time for grief later. Years of it, probably. Right now, there were still aircraft in the sky. There were still threats to assess the government still had to function. Status on United 93? He asked. Sir, it's down. Crashed in Pennsylvania. Shanksville. Early reports suggest the passengers fought back. Fought back. The phrase hung in the air. While the government had been preparing to shoot them down, the passengers had taken matters into their own hands. Heroes, Cheney thought. In the worst day in American history, there were still heroes. Get me the CIA, Cheney said quietly, and get me everything we have on Al-Qaeda. Around the table, his staff exchanged glances. They understood what that meant. This wasn't just about responding to an attack. This was about planning what came next. And Cheney, who'd spent decades in the national security establishment, who'd served as Secretary of Defense during Desert Storm, already knew what came next. War. The question wasn't if, but where and how. Cheney finally left the bunker as dawn broke on September 12th. He'd been underground for nearly 20 hours, and the fresh air hit him like a shock. The morning was clear, the same perfect weather that had existed 24 hours earlier, when the world was different. Secret Service drove him home in an armored motorcade. Streets empty in the pre-dawn hours, Washington looked the same.